Hello, hello. So today I want to talk about blades. So first of all, I order these and we're going to be supplying these on the website soon. I'm so excited. I get these straight from China in 50 packs. They're like $2 each, but they're dual headed. And the things I really love about this is, so this, you can see how thin this side is. Which isn't a big deal to use, short term, but I am spoiled. I really love this right here. I love this thicker, and it kind of has a nice indent. I'm just able to hold this so much more securely. So you can get ones for a little over $1, maybe $1.20 or something each, as long as you have that longer shipping to get them straight from China. But yeah, you want to have your blades be fully disposable, and you want to go ahead and have one of these per client and dispose of it. If you're brand new and really trying to save money, you can put these in a plastic bag, wipe it down with Clavy wipe, of course, and then put it in their file, and then you can use the same blade on them again for their touch-up. But do not use these more than one per client. Toss them. It's not worth the $2 to give somebody like HIV or something insane, okay? So anyways, what I want to talk about is blades. So I have 3 blades out right now. So this one is a 14 slant, and this is in my max pigment size, which is 0.25. And everybody kind of has this opinion of thinner is better, and that is not always the case. Oh, sorry, glare. So I'm going to come back to that and talk about that. But first we're going to talk about blade types. And then I'm going to talk about sizes. So this is my 14 slant in max pigment. This is my Shade Me. And the main thing I want you to see here is how they're actually corrugated. They come up and down. Pixel. Okay. And then we've got U blades. My Shade Me blades are the only blades I shade with, and I'll talk to you about why. But let's just break this down one at a time. So when you're first starting out, I always suggest doing slant blades. And I'll show you why. So first of all, to put these in, we're just going to go like this. Boop, 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 boop. Unscrew this, and you can actually unscrew this all the way. So this is how this works. This has these openings, and your blade fits in these openings like this. Okay, and then this comes, and see how this expands wider. So as you tighten this presses and holds this, and it pushes these together to hold your blade more securely. Okay, so that's the mechanics of it, but it goes like this, and you're going to want to put your blade in at a 45-degree angle, and I'll show you what that looks like. But so I start out with just having it be straight like this, and then I tighten it to where it's, and you kind of have to hold this tip like this while you screw here. So I'm holding here and then turning the handle. And you want to do that until you can move this, but not super easily. See, so it's not just free floating. So here's the trick with this. You have to pull this out enough to where you can push it all the way. So it's going to look like this, okay? So from going straight like this, you want to take this and put it on a hard surface so you can really picture this. So that this blade is parallel with skin, okay? And see how this whole thing is pretty much parallel right now? And the blade is parallel with the skin. So then what you want to do, and I'm going to move this over to this hard surface, so if this is staying still, you want the blade to be the handle to be straight up and down. So it's like this. So the handle straight up and down, and if this is your skin, this is parallel with the skin. Does that make sense, guys? So this is straight up and down, and this is tilted to where your slant blade, this line right here, is parallel with the skin. So when you're microblading, this blade is parallel with the skin. So once you get this to the correct angle like this, you want to go ahead and tighten this down even further to where this is just really, really in there. It's not going to move anymore. So that's how we want to put in a blade. I'm going to show you that one more time pretty quick, but with a U blade. And I feel like it's harder to get that visual picture for that angle with a U blade because it's a U shape, right? So it's harder to see that parallel portion. But just once you know what that looks like angle-wise, so you know this is here and gook, 45 degrees. You want to do the same thing here and then boop. But see, right now, this is actually only at about 30 degrees. So this is the other thing. See how the tip of this is only like, I don't know, 3-4 millimeters? Do you see how this tip is like a solid, like maybe 5 millimeters from here to here? So when you're working with this, it's actually a little bit harder to get that 45, so you have to pull this out even a little bit more and continue to tilt. There we go. Now we're closer to our 45. Okay? And then again, hold this still while you screw the handle. And then once you get it that tight, finish. So this is what properly installed blades should look like. And sorry if you guys were already taught that. Sorry to take up time with this, but if not, I hope you can just fast forward on through this. Okay. So, slant blades, the reason that they're awesome to start with is because they really help you keep that proper angle while starting. Again, you want this to be parallel at all times while making a stroke. So this be sitting straight up and down, and this being parallel with the skin. And the other important thing is you want to place your stroke. It's like this. You in, drag, up. I think a lot of people think it's a U. You kind of dip to create a stroke. That is not the case. You want to place, drag, up. Okay? So for slant blades, the important thing is you don't want to tilt forward. Otherwise, that tip of the blade is going to go too deep. So if your blade is tilted forward, then this tip here is going to go too deep. When you go into the skin, see, because that tip, and then if you drag, you're going to be a lot deeper than if the blade is parallel. So, or if you're tilting up slightly, you're only having about half that blade touch as you're dragging. So you're not going to get nearly as much pigment into the skin. So slant blades, if you're really watching that blade as you're doing what you're doing, you're really able to watch your depth easier, and you're able to watch your angle easier. I heavily recommend starting with slants. And the thing about my slants, if you look super carefully, it's really hard to see, but they have just an ever so slight curve. And that tiny bit of a curve is what allows you to still make a little bit of curved strokes. So I'm telling you, these blades are just bomb. bomb.com. And anyways, so this is my number one recommended beginner blade, and this is my Max Pigment 14 Slant. Okay, so now with U blades, the only portion of this blade that is touching the skin is half of the blade. It's from here over. Okay, so it's actually just from this tip over. So when, same thing, your handle will be straight up and down, and then just this very tip is touching. It's actually only, oh, maybe of those 18 pins, it's probably 5 or 6 of them that are actually touching. And so then when you're curving, you can get a really sharp twist and a really sharp curve easily. So if you really are a fan of curvy strokes, that's where U blades are really fun. But to keep your depth correct on this takes a lot more skill. So until your depth is just super, super on point, I don't recommend using U blades. So that's my number 1 and 2 differences here on between U blades and slant blades. I prefer a U blade because I love curvy strokes, and because my pressure is, I've really got it down. Now let's talk about thicknesses. My Ultra Crisp, what the thickness means is it's the actual diameter from here, top to bottom, from here to here. And we are literally talking about millimeters, like points of a millimeter. So, so these blades are 1.8 millimeters thick. No, I'm sorry, 0.18 millimeters thick. So it's not even a full millimeter, guys. Like it's crazy. Okay, ultra thin. So these ones are 0.25. So I know to the naked eye that looks like nothing, but it does make just a little bit of difference in the skin. So what you need to know is that this blade, the thicker, the Ultra Crisp compared to the Max Pigment, is that the Max Pigment in one stroke is going to put in a lot more pigment. The slant blade Max Pigment is going to put in more pigment than the U blade. And the reason for that is because you're having more needles drag across the skin. So every needle that touches, and depending on the diameter of the needle, that's what's going to determine how much pigment goes in with each stroke. So the more needles, the more pigment, and the thicker the blade, the more pigment. So while starting out, I find that people really struggle to get enough pigment into the skin. So that's another reason I recommend slant blades. More needles touching the skin, and again, the Max Pigment blade, because you're going to get more pigment in. So, so that breaks down my 2 different blade types, as well as 2 different blade thicknesses available. And I am about to start carrying a thinner slant blade as well as a Max Pigment U blade. Give me like 2 weeks. They're going to come out in just a second. Ta-da! And then lastly, we're going to talk about the pixel blade. So the reason I want to talk about these pixel blades is because they are truly unlike anything you've ever used before. So can you picture a training wheel for correct depth on shading and how epic that would be? That's what this is, guys. When you press this into the skin, these shorter needles catch, and then these deeper needles go in. So it helps you, every other needle in these little pixel dots, it helps you reach that perfect pigment. So if this is the skin you're penetrating, and this is our pixel blades. Okay, I'm gonna try to, okay, like this, like literally, so you press and then boop, when that lower needle hits, it helps you stop so that you don't go too deep. So you're going prick, 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 and it's helping you, little training wheels there to get the correct depth for shading. So not only is it so super cool that you're able to do these little pixel dots into the skin to give it a more airy look and to give it a more spaced look, a natural look, but on top of that, you got that training wheel there to help you, boop, make sure that you're not going too deep. So I'm telling you, these blades are just revolutionary, honestly. They're revolutionary. And once you shade with them, you will never want to shade with anything else. You can dilute the pigment more and more to get a more traditional, balanced, and even look. But I think you'll find that less dilution, and you can even take these blades, these shaders, and you can do a little bit of a pattern with them. You can actually get a textured, airy stroke appearance with these blades. It is just unbelievable, and I'm going to put out some tutorials on that to show you how. So, but you apply this blade just like this. It's just bigger, okay? Same angle, and then to shade with that, same thing. You just boop, boop, boop. So that covers all of our blades, on how to put them into your tool, and on which one to choose. So again, if you are a beginner and you're struggling to get the right angle on your blade, I recommend slant blades. If you're wanting to shade, pixel blades. If you're a little bit more expert, you've really got a handle on your depth, and you're wanting to get some nice curvy strokes and have a little bit more freedom with your artistry, I recommend U blades. And on thickness of blades, if you've got skin where you're having a hard time getting pigment in, I've even switched sizes of blades after my first pass in these cases, bump up a size. Or if you're a person that just is kind of light-handed and your first passes, you hardly get enough pigment and it's hard to see those strokes and go over them again, bump up a size, go to my max pigment. But if you want really light, airy, not very much pigment in those strokes, then that's where the Ultra Crisp are just way too fun. So, and I actually am soon going to be carrying an even smaller blade in my U blade, that if you're wanting to fill your strokes with an even finer blade, that's what you would use, and it would be put onto your tool just like this. So, and that's going to be called my nano blade. So, and I only really recommend that for second passes because it seriously puts such a small amount of pigment in, but it's really fun for filling your strokes. If you got a really good amount in that first pass and you just want to put the teeniest bit in without spreading that stroke any thicker. So, okay guys, this is my tutorial. If you have any questions, please go to the Facebook support group and comment there. And I know you're gonna love these blades. I tried several manufacturers, and these were the sharpest, highest quality I was able to find, and I can't wait for you to try them.